Okay.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, we can call the meeting to order then. Okay, so welcome everyone to this virtual special meeting of the Livermore City Council on Monday, January 25th, 5 o'clock. And how to participate can be found on the city's website. It's a standard procedure, and we'll be doing it under the COVID rules that we've been doing with, unfortunately, for a long period of time now. So with that, like to have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Kick,
Here.
Councilmember Carling,
Here.
Vice Mayor Monroe,
Here.
Mayor Warner.
Here. Okay, so oh, I don't see the Pledge of Allegiance in this version at this point. Are we dispensing with that?
Here we generally do the Pledge of Allegiance for the regular meetings.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, especially in this day and age, just keep that in mind. So now we're on to item 3, which is the special meeting workshop item. And
Mayor
there's
Warner,
yes.
Mayor Warner, if I may, this is your city attorney. I'm looking at the clock right now, and I'm showing we have a 4:58 time, and we had a 5 o'clock start time. So
Oh,
it looks like we're about minutes early.
Should I start it all over again?
No, I'd say let's hold and then restart at 5 o'clock. Hold for 2 minutes to allow the public the opportunity to join us.
Okay. So we'll just wait for the 2 minutes for the public. Okay.
Please, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry I didn't notice the time. I figured once we were ready on the YouTube, we're good to go. So sorry about that. So we'll just hold for a couple of minutes. Okay, it's now 5 o'clock. For
Yes,
those
Mr. Mayor, it's now 5 o'clock, and to recap, you have already conducted a roll call and confirmed that all council are here and present and accounted for, and you directed the public to review the ways to participate in the agenda, which is our standard protocol that we've been conducting under the rules of COVID. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you to continue with the meeting.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. City Attorney, for keeping us on the right time and making sure we didn't start too early. So we're on to item 3 because this is a special meeting, and it's to choose the applicant for the replacing the open seat that is on the council because I got elected mayor. And we do have the opportunity for the public to address the council on this special workshop item. So with that, I'd ask the city clerk, do we have any members of the public that want to address us on this topic?
Yes, we do, Mayor. City Clerk's office, please unmute the attendees.
The first speaker will be Carl Wente, followed by Elizabeth Trutner. And Carl, we have unmuted you, so you may speak.
Hello, Council, Mr. Mayor, city staff. As always, just would like to thank you for what you do in terms of service, and for all those that applied for this position. Would like to thank you for leaning in and caring about government and good government. Just would like to hopefully you choose the best, most qualified, most educated candidate. And I think in the amount of work that the city does as it relates to planning and land use and just the ongoing issues associated with planning in our wonderful town, I personally have a bias towards those that have experience on the Planning Commission. And I think Councilmember Kick said at the last meeting that she shares that general bias as the being a member of the Planning Commission, as I think you, Mr. Mayor, also were, gives such a great insight into how the sausage is made, the workings, the inner workings of government. So with that, I would just like to say that Gina Bonanno has done a great job of serving on the Planning Commission and has shown to be a student of government, what is good government and how our city operates and works. And I think would be an outstanding replacement to step in for this period of time as you, Mr. Mayor, have elevated into that position and left the opening. Again, to the council, to the mayor, thank you for what you do. To the city staff, the wonderful people that we have enabling our government to work in these trying times. I salute you. As always, those that serve the public, that put on a bulletproof vest to go to work in any given day, those officers with a badge that protect us, thank you all so much for what you do for keeping us safe. Namaste, be well, peace out.
The next speaker is Elizabeth Trutner. And Elizabeth, we've allowed you to talk.
Well, thank you, Mayor Werner, council members and staff, and Carl. I agree with all of your sentiments, and I'm also here to support Gina Bonanno's appointment to the position. My name is Beth Trutner. My law offices are on 4th Street, and I live downtown as well on J Street. You face the difficult task of filling a vacancy on the City Council at a time when the issues requiring your attention are incredibly varied with far-reaching effect. COVID, homelessness, discrimination, and the development of our downtown, to name a few. I urge you to appoint Gina Bonanno to the position. Her experience in roles directly supporting our community will enable her to be immediately effective. The learning curve I'm sure all new council members confront will be manageable due to her years of serving on public agencies and on nonprofit boards. In addition to her hands-on experience, Gina is thoughtful, analytical, compassionate, smart, hardworking, and above all, a good listener. Thank you for allowing me to speak on Gina's behalf.
And that concludes the public comment.
Oh, well, thank you. Let's see. So at this point, we're going to begin the interview process, and we have a staff report. But let me just say, go ahead with the staff report, and then I'll make a couple of comments before we get into the interviews themselves.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This is Marie Weber, your City Clerk. The City Council will be interviewing 18 candidates to fill the City Council vacancy this evening. Each candidate will be provided 5 minutes to answer the question provided on the agenda. The Council will take a 5-minute break after each group of 6 candidates is interviewed. Candidates, once your name is announced and you are brought into the meeting, please turn on your audio and video features to complete the interview. At the conclusion of the interviews, the City Council will take 20 minutes to select and email their top 3 candidates to the City Clerk, who will then tabulate the votes. Once the meeting resumes, the votes will be displayed and City Council discussion will begin.
Okay, thank you for that. What I wanted to say before we begin is that I really appreciate all the people that have taken the time to fill out the applications and get letters of recommendation and to go through this. Having gone through it many years ago, it's not easy, and I really want to just acknowledge that it takes a lot of work to do what you're doing, and I really appreciate it. And it will be, looking at the applications and the everything as well as the interviews tonight to be making our decisions. And it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate everyone's efforts in this regard. Anybody else like to say something before we begin? Councilmember Carling.
Yes, thanks. I wanted to second your points, and I appreciate all the applications and the time that people spent in preparing their materials. And I look forward to hearing the answers to the interview question. And believe me, that I will be making my own judgment based on the material you provided in the application, as well as what you have to say this evening. And for those that are wondering, or maybe even for those that aren't, I broke my collarbone a week ago. That's why you see the black stripe, which is the sling for my left arm. So thank you.
You and bicycles are having a good time this year, huh?
Yeah, yes.
So, Councilmember Kick.
I just wanted to say that it was really exciting for me to see the vast diversity of people that applied, and reading through the letters of recommendation. That was very exciting to see so many people reaching out to their community and the community they have behind them. So I know whoever we come on, they're going to come with the community behind them, which I think is extremely valuable. Another thing that I wanted to ask just a question about the process. Are we going to go over, like, are we each asking the question? Is there any time for a follow-up after? Are we going to go over that process before we begin?
There won't be any follow-up, and the city clerk will be ushering people in and out. And we will, after a group of 6, take a few minutes to consolidate our notes. And then after all of them, then it'll come back to us, and then we'll begin the process of deliberation, and we'll talk at that point. But I do believe in the last council meeting, you had suggested that after we hear from everyone, we talk about what's important to ourselves as a council before we vote. So we can do that as well, or we can decide to just vote directly. So we can make that decision once we've heard from everybody.
And who's asking? Is Marie asking the question? Are they just supposed to have read the question? What's that process going to look like?
I think it was one question that everybody's got. I'm not sure we have to read that question multiple times. I would presume, frankly, that in the answers from the candidates that they would say, they could answer it. I don't think we have to read that question 20 times or something myself.
Can I suggest that we just ask it once and remind our applicants to answer with the question and the answer? That's what the teacher me would say, is make sure you use the question and the answer so we know what you're talking about. Excellent.
And since Councilmember Carling drafted the question, he can begin with answering it when not right now. Wait, Vice Mayor Monroe wants to say something, and then we'll turn it back to you to ask the question, then we'll begin. Does that work for you, Councilmember Kick? Great.
Yes, thank you.
And
okay,
I have nothing to add as far as the process goes. I think that everybody has expressed ditto. I agree completely with the way the process is taking place, and the fact that we have the applications and the questions, I think, will give us plenty of information. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to both the applicants and to staff and to my fellow council members for postponing because of my personal situation. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I'm glad, and it's very important that you be with us, and very sorry for your loss. So and it's great that even from afar you can participate. So
thank you.
The other thing I want to say is that it's a little unusual for us to be interviewing everyone, and maybe people might think that was odd, but I also believe it's good for the community to see the range of all the people that really want to contribute. And I think we're going to learn a lot about what interests people and what do they think is important. So I think we'll all benefit from hearing from everyone. So with that, Councilmember Carling, would you like to state the question?
Sure, thank you. So the question, as we wrote, that everybody will be addressing is, what are the most important priorities for council to tackle over the length of your term? And why should we consider you for this position?
Okay, thank you. And I'll just remind everyone, we're showing the speaker view to the community. The person who's interviewing will see the gallery view and can see all of us. And what we'll be doing individually is taking notes and trying to assimilate every piece of information. So with that, really look forward to hearing from everyone who's applying. So could you start the process, City Clerk?
Honorable Mayor, the first applicant is Jeffrey Haitley, followed by Alex Sazifi, and then Moni Knopp. Jeffrey, we're going to be converting you to a panelist, so please prepare your audio and your video.
Good evening. Can you guys see me, hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members, and good evening, everyone that's online listening today. I'd like to thank you for having me here tonight, and I'd also like to thank everybody for taking time out of their lives to get involved and support our city. My name is Jeff Haitley, and while I've only lived in Livermore for 2 years, my family has been doing business here for 30. As a matter of fact, I remember when they developed office spaces over by Airport and Highway 84, when there was hardly anything developed. Fast forward to today, I have to say Livermore has come a long way and a great place to live and raise a family. Jumping into the priorities I want to tackle over the length of this term are figuring out the best way to open Livermore for all residents and small businesses safely and at full capacity. This is beneficial to both the city and our residents and will help unemployment, job growth, and tourism, which will lead to an increase in sales tax revenue and will help Livermore with its long-term financial plan. Most importantly, it's great for mental health and to have the ability to socialize. You know, I have a daughter in high school that just wants to go hang out in downtown with their friends. My sons play sports. They just want to be able to go compete, go to the park and not worry about any restrictions. And I think it's really important that we figure out how to get the community open and running again safely. The second priority is the homeless issue. Everybody deserves to have a roof over their head, and the cost of living increases each year. It makes it challenging for some to afford housing, receive proper treatment, and job skill training. During this term, I will ensure that every single dollar of federal, state, and local funding that Livermore is eligible for is applied for. Additionally, I will look at more affordable housing options for younger professionals and families. Now, the third issue is something that excites me the most, and is to make wine country a destination location. I will work with the city and developers to create a central hub that increases tourism to wine country and to be able to compete with Napa. I have a vision for the central hub that will provide a hotel for tourists, recreational activity, and transportation to all wineries, in addition to sourcing and selling goods from local community and businesses. I support the current plan to continue development of the downtown area. And finally, Lawrence Livermore Lab is classified by the Department of Homeland Security as critical infrastructure, and therefore I believe grants options should be explored to facilitate the security of the national lab. Included in these grants could be a solution for the homeless. So why should you select me? Last year during the COVID-19 pandemic, like most people, I think we can all agree we've had enough politics on TV for a lifetime. I became frustrated, I became upset with the news, both political parties, and we have to take a step back and remember politicians are for the people, and I think that got lost somewhere along the way. So like I tell my kids, if you want change, you must be the spark that creates the change. So to practice what I preached, I decided to get involved, hence the reason why I'm here today. After 9/11, almost 20 years ago, I took a stand to fight for our country, and today I'm taking a stand to bring help, to bring unity to our community. I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, spending the time in Japan and a tour over in Iraq. After getting out, I received my bachelor's degree in accounting from Cal State Fullerton, my CPA license, and my MBA from Pepperdine. Throughout my career, I've tackled any challenge placed in front of me, and I've excelled at financial responsibility, budgeting, and cash flow management. And for this success, I must thank the Marine Corps for instilling leadership and discipline in my everyday life. Over the past couple of years, I've been looking into solutions for homeless and the affordable housing crisis over in San Joaquin County. The vision for this project includes not only the availability of transitional housing for the needy and displaced workers, but also provide facilities for mental health, drug rehabilitation, and job placement. I'm excited to say, as of today, this project has raised over $4 million of private capital and has secured a lease on approximately 7 acres for project development, which is located in a qualified opportunity zone. I hope this project can spread throughout California and create a huge impact and put a dent in this crisis. Not only will I do what is best for our residents, but I believe I can inspire our residents to do what's best for our community. I want to keep Livermore a great place for my family while continuing to watch it grow for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker will be Alex Shazifi, followed by Moni Knopp, followed by Evan Branning. And Alex, we will be converting you over to a panelist. Please have your audio and video ready.
Okay, am I in?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Mayor Warner, City Council, name is Alex Shazifi, and the answer to your question. My answer would be in line with the previous City Council goals and priorities. The city asset management and city infrastructure are the most important issues for City Council to maintain, because without those, nothing else, not other priorities will work well. The infrastructure includes roads, lights, IT department, police, firefighting at the airport. All those assets should be managed properly, and they are incredibly important for the city. The airport brings in annually over 50 million in revenues for the Tri-Valley. The IT department maintains IT infrastructure for the city. And if they're not already doing this, they should be engaging a high-end cybersecurity entity in Silicon Valley to help us maintain IT infrastructure and to protect and monitor it. Number 2 on the priority list would be commitment to public safety. The police and fire department should properly be maintained and managed so the citizens of Livermore can feel safe at the businesses, the residences. Number 3, the city should provide innovative solution to a affordable housing. I would want to call it affordable or low income. I would call it just housing. And priority should be given to people who work in the city of Livermore, like first responders, nurses, teachers, staff of the city. City should figure out a way to help them out to buy a first house, maybe help with the down payment, maybe help with the co-signing for the loan, but something city could do for that. Number 4, supporting a strong economy, because without a local economy, we don't get any revenue to run the city. Something in terms of anything from taco stand to Gillig would be the range of businesses that city would support. And also the innovation hub such as Livermore should be also involved in that, in new businesses. And the number 5, the last item, public education, educating public of what does city council do? What do we actually do? $2.5 billion in assets. I don't think anybody knows that. I don't think anybody knows that the airport is not just a source of noise, but a $50 million revenue asset. I don't know how many people know how much sales tax outlets are bringing. It's not just a weekend traffic increase. These are the things that we could probably post on the city website in the front page in one paragraph instead of part of the big staff report to the council. Now about me, I have been in business in Livermore for 25 years. I know how to manage budget, how to manage assets. I raised my family here, and I understand the needs of business, family, and the community. I've been active in the community. I'm a graduate of a class number 16 of Citizen Police Academy. I volunteer with the police department at the exercises. I'm the guy they shoot at. And also spent 8 years in the Livermore Airport Commission. 4 years as the chair, and well acquainted with the Brown Act and the public meetings. And to end this, my goal at the commission meetings at the airport, and also would be at the city council if selected, would be guided by what would the benefit for the people in the city of Livermore. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, the next applicant will be Moni Knopp, followed by Evan Branning, followed by Faith Norvik. And Moni, we will be moving you over to panelists. Please have your video and audio ready.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts about the most important decisions that the City Council will have to make during the next 2 years and why I should be selected as the next City Council members of Livermore. Just like any other city, we have many issues impacting us in the next 2 years and beyond. I believe they are the growth and development of our city, specifically downtown Livermore, general planning for the city, public safety, incorporating equity and inclusion to the city's plan, the ongoing issues with homelessness, the cost of the city's aging infrastructure, the financial impact of COVID-19 on the city's budget, the amendment to the urban growth boundary, how to heal and unite our city, and much more. Of these many issues, I believe the two most important decisions that a city council member will have to make are, one, the development of downtown Livermore, including the parking structure, more retail businesses, the hotel, the Quest Science Center, the Black Box Theater, and Eden Housing. Of these, I feel that the final location of Eden Housing to accommodate a bigger park in downtown Livermore should be a top priority. That is so important because it will impact downtown Livermore now and for many generations to come. The question is, have all viable options been explored? The second most important decision for the City Council is uniting our city. We have been fighting with each other now, especially during the last 3 years, starting with the 2018 election, the special election of Measure P, and now the location of Eden Housing. This fighting has led to divisiveness in our city, and I think it's time to unite our city. I believe I am the best candidate to be the next City Council member because I bring many unique experiences and perspectives to the City Council. I do that through my leadership experience, my in-depth knowledge of the real estate and development as a realtor, my connections to this community through my volunteer work in the last 25 years in the city, my 17 years experience as a Livermore police officer, and now my 13 years as a business owner. During the past 10 years, I've held many leadership positions, including being the president and founder of several nonprofit organizations. I understand how to work with committees and people to accomplish our priorities, including participating in many strategic planning processes to establish goals and priorities of an organization, just like the work of the City Council. In my recent role as a public policy committee chair for the Asian Real Estate Association of America, we established a plan to increase home ownership for Asian American and Pacific Islanders. And then I led a delegation to meet with over 100 members of Congress. Our work definitely contributed to Asian American become the second largest owners group in America. As the committee chair for my Rotary Club, I led an initiative to give $32,000 in grants a year. As the vice president and co-founder of the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance, I helped our organization grow into a membership organization. It now has over 125 members and today serves over 400 nonprofit organizations. As a Livermore police officer, I helped to establish the Citizens Police Academy as the founding member and the critical incident stress debriefing policy for the department, which is still being utilized successfully today. Lastly, I bring diversity perspective to the council. No person of color has ever represented the City Council in the 143 years since its founding. If appointed, I would be the first to represent the member of this diverse community, which was one of the primary reasons why I ran for mayor. I received 35% of the votes with 15,870 people asking me to represent their voices. By selecting me, This could bring the change that Livermore needs, just like what's going on in our country currently. In closing, I want you to know that I simply love the city of Livermore. I met so many incredible people here. I care deeply about our city. Growing up very poor, I never dreamed of the great life that I have today until the city of Livermore hired me to be a police officer in 1995. That hiring changed the trajectory of my life and the life of my family. As such, I am profoundly grateful for what this community and the city has done for me. In return, I would love the opportunity to continue to serve and give back to our community. I thank you for your time and kind consideration. I look forward to the opportunity of working with all of you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The next applicant is Evan Branning, followed by Faith Nordvik, followed by Regina Bonanno, and Regina is number 6. Evan will be moving you over as a panelist. Please have your video and audio ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Council, Mayor, and staff for your time and consideration. From my perspective, the 2 most important priorities for Council in my term and beyond are to provide Livermore residents with a sense of safety and community. The COVID disaster has destabilized many residents' lives, leaving many feeling insecure and uncertain of their futures. My personal top priority is doing everything I can to help our neighbors feel safe, welcome, and supported by our city. I want to work with Council and staff on programs that will help our neighbors who invested in our community stay in Livermore. With a long history of working on sheltering individuals, public health, and social services, I plan to bring my perspective on how to reach more people and expand programs without further stretching city resources to Council. Additionally, as a former small business owner, I understand the needs of Livermore businesses, and I look forward to helping them survive COVID and thrive during our recovery. I know there are already many programs underway, but we will need new, additional, creative solutions and regional support to be able to fill the need. I hope my unique set of skills will help as many residents as possible feel safe and secure in Livermore. The second top priority I see is engaging our neighbors, fostering a sense of community. Most of our residents love Livermore, but not everyone feels a part of our community. We can continue to build on Livermore's rich culture while creating an open and welcoming environment. My life and career have given me the skill set to show cultural compassion and humility and to reach people who often feel left out. I plan to continue to use my skills to bring people into city politics and make them feel powerful and heard. Our culture and community are enriched by each member feeling that they have a powerful voice to give. I will continue always to reach out and listen so that everyone I meet knows that they are heard and that they are meaningful. I will bring not only my voice, but my constituents' hopes, fears, and concerns to Council to help us build a strong communal tie. Being on Council is a big responsibility, and I do not take it lightly. I recognize the gravity of the position and the call to serve others, and I have a great deal of respect for all of those who serve and all who applied. I hope that you will select me to serve on City Council because I've demonstrated my ability to work directly with Council members, staff, and the community at large to get big things done. I've organized and led multiple groups that helped us see the downtown progress, Valley Link form, and voters registered and engaged locally. As a leader on these issues, I was able to bring in residents and businesses, find creative methods of communication, and reach a large audience. For example, on Measure P, I was the originator of the house party strategy. I implemented the downtown poster campaign, and I led the online community outreach. I was able to engage with thousands of residents in a positive and informative way. Even during the most contentious of times, I was recognized for my calm, kind, and informative demeanor online. This is just one example, but in my many activities, I've become known through our community for my positive and clear engagement. Equally important, going forward, many of Livermore's big issues are ones that cannot be solved by Livermore alone. COVID recovery, homelessness, health, transit, and many others will require regional coordination. Through my advocacy, commissions, and work, I've built relationships with the Tri-Valley cities, school boards, LARPD, local organizations, the community college district, the county, the state, and federal representatives. This has given me the perspective of how these complex bodies interact and how to move policy forward in this interwoven system. I bring this perspective and these relationships to work for Livermore. I hope you'll select me as a representative of Livermore residents. I believe my past service has prepared me to be an effective, compassionate, and accessible leader in our community. And I thank you again for your time and consideration. Good night.
Thank you.
The next applicant is Faith Nordvik, followed by Gina Bonanno. Then we'll be taking a 5-minute break, and the applicant after that will be Jennifer Vieira. Faith, we're moving you over as a panelist. Please have your audio and video on. Thank you.
Hello. Just want to make sure you can all hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
To begin, I do want to extend my condolences to Vice Mayor Monroe. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I'm glad that you can be here with us today. My name is Faith Nordvik, and I have lived in Livermore almost my entire life. I love this town and all the opportunities that it's given me, and I would do anything that I could to see it thrive. I'm an ambitious, motivated, and driven young woman. I'm currently finishing my bachelor's degree in political science at the University of California, something I've been able to manage to do in 3 years while maintaining a stellar GPA and leadership roles in various campus and community organizations, including student government. I've managed budgets and assets, as well as worked as part of legislative bodies. I won't recount my entire resume, but my time in these organizations has given me the ability to manage really difficult situations and make tough decisions, all while being a full-time student. Many may look at me and discount my candidacy for this position because of my age. However, my youth isn't a weakness. I think it's a strength. I will bring a fresh and unique perspective that few here tonight could. I've grown up in an extremely different world than many of those only a few years older have. I was only in 3rd grade when the housing crisis and ensuing recession crippled our communities and local budgets. I didn't get to be in music classes in elementary school because of it. I'm brought back to this community because of the economic effects of the pandemic that's ripped through our lives. The young people in this town are screaming for change and for representation, and I believe that this is a jumping off point. The protests which swept the country last summer also came to Livermore, and we saw a passion and desire for change from our community's young people that I've never seen here before. We're here, and we deserve to have as much of a say and influence in the decisions made here as anybody else. We have different needs, and oftentimes that leads to different opinions. But regardless of our opinions, we show strong feelings for what we believe. We need a city councilor with intense passion and a unique perspective. On this basis, I believe I am uniquely qualified for the position. I'm intent on making positive change in our community. There's a lot to love about our town, but there's things that we need to work on as well. Like the rest of the Bay Area, as well as the rest of California, home prices, the cost of rent, and property values make Livermore an increasingly difficult place to live. This brings me to the specific issue I would focus on during my tenure as city councilor: poverty and homelessness. In a city, state, and country as wealthy as ours, there should be no one who is forced to live on the streets. Homelessness has ripple effects throughout a community, affecting the availability of public resources like healthcare and policing and tax dollars. Livermore isn't immune from these effects. It's increasingly clear that the most direct way to address the rising rates of poverty and homelessness is to create much more affordable housing options. The City Council has to support legislation and efforts to create more low-income housing and affordable multifamily rental units. However, there are more creative solutions which we must explore as well. In Oakland, a former parking lot was transformed into a small community of mini homes for homeless youth. This is an option for Livermore as well. These communities could serve as emergency, transitional, or supportive housing, depending on the evolving needs of our town. Creating small communities like this to house homeless populations is more economical than creating large apartment complexes and provides the same amount of shelter and level of dignity for the people living there. However, it's not enough just to put roofs over their heads. We need to address the root issues of why many in our community end up homeless. It's not enough to react to the issue. We have to be proactive to break the cycle and create a more solid community. The city has to provide better resources for our LGBT youth, as well as resources for those struggling with mental illness and addiction. 40% of the homeless youth identify as LGBT, and LGBT people often struggle with finding shelter and resources that address their specific needs and provide them the respect that they deserve. Additionally, mental illness issues and addiction are increasingly responsible for the rising rate of homelessness in Livermore and across the country. Providing resources and funding for for those suffering as well as their families could prevent many from ending up on the streets in the first place. Whether chosen for this position or not, I hope that the council will consider choosing an individual who has a unique and fresh perspective in order to ensure that every citizen is represented in their local government, as well as to help address the ever-changing needs of the community. I believe the strength of my convictions, my ability to work well as a member of a functioning team, as well as my own unique experiences make me an outstanding candidate for this position, a choice which will break the mold of what people think of local government as, and will show people what local government could be. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you.
The next applicant will be Gina Bonanno, followed by a 5-minute break, then Jennifer Vieira and Christine Lesty. Regina, we're going to be moving you in as a panelist.
Well, good evening. I hope everyone can hear and see me okay. Good
Yes,
evening.
we can.
Good evening, Mayor Warner and members of the council and staff, and thank you for the opportunity to participate tonight. Well, tonight I bet there's one thing we can all agree on, and that's the past year has been like no other. Over the 2 years of this term, the priorities the council sets and the decisions it makes will be extremely consequential, having an impact for many years to come. I believe the council's overarching priority should be to provide effective, inclusive, and compassionate leadership along with the theme of unity and community spirit. The council never has just one or even just a few priorities. What's important is a council member's ability to balance multiple priorities at the same time and to know the difference between what's urgent and what's important. With that in mind, the most immediate and urgent priority will be to lead the city through the pandemic and its recovery. This effort will have multiple facets. We must continue to focus on public health measures and to provide timely and accurate information to the public. We must also help our hardest hit businesses get back on their feet and address the needs community members who are struggling may have. Accomplishing this while maintaining the financial stability of the city will be essential. We're fortunate due to the past actions of the council to have a sound, well-managed fiscal foundation. How we invest city resources while also leveraging partnerships and other funding sources will be an important part of this job. We won't know the full extent of the pandemic's impact or the economic consequences for some time, but we should be prepared to respond to a range of possibilities with all the tools available to us. Of course, the council must tackle more than COVID recovery. The council gets things done fundamentally by directing and allocating two types of resources: funding and staff time. Some things that are important and must continue will take substantial funding. These include asset management and maintenance of our infrastructure, addressing homelessness, and even building parking garages, all of which will be worked on during the length of this term. Others will lean more heavily on staff time. Updating the general plan is an important activity scheduled to begin this year and is much needed to incorporate the significant changes that have occurred in Livermore, in the Tri-Valley, and in the Bay Area in the over 20 years since this plan was first adopted. And finally, there are going to be rare opportunities to work on things like the Isabel Neighborhood Plan and Valley Link. These things may develop more slowly, but we will still have the requirement of staff's attention and council's attention during the years of this term. Every 2 years, the city holds a goals and priority workshop, with the next one being planned for March 1st. This is when city leadership presents strategic initiatives for new and ongoing work scope, along with required resources. If selected, this is where I'd expect to become better informed and better able to make data-driven decisions on priorities that best serve the community. Now, the second part of your question was why me? I believe my years on the Planning Commission, as well as on the Asset Management Committee, the Downtown Steering Committee, and the Library Board, provide me with a broad and deep understanding of city governance, city services, finances, and the complexities of a city whose population is nearing 100,000. In these roles, I've shown my ability as a thoughtful decision maker, an effective communicator, and as an attentive listener to members of the public. My work with local nonprofits has given me an appreciation for the diversity and the character of our community and for the power of what can be done when we work together. My professional career was spent managing large, technically challenging projects. I was successful in managing multidisciplinary teams with large budgets. In this role, I demonstrated the ability to collaborate, to balance priorities, and to get the job done. I came to the Tri-Valley 35 years ago and have lived in Livermore for 20 years. This is where my wife was born and raised. It's where we raised our son and where he came back to after college. This is where he chose to come back to, which of course makes a mother very happy. It's where my roots are set. Livermore has provided a wonderful quality of life for me and my family. Serving the community is something I've demonstrated my commitment to, and I would enthusiastically continue to do as a member of the council. These next 2 years will go by very quickly. I've mentioned the challenges, but this will also be a time of opportunity and for creative problem solving. I'm ready to step in and get started, and I'd be very honored to serve alongside you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll be taking a 5-minute break. After the break, it will be Jennifer Vieira, Christine Lesty, and Dennis Kai.
So I would ask the council at this point, do you, how much time you need to sort of consolidate your thoughts, and does it make sense to have the, we'll take the 5-minute break now, but do you think we might need to do that in the future as well, or what's your sense at this point?
We can take one now, but I imagine that we won't need to take how many more breaks would there be? I feel like we're adding 15 minutes
just one more, because we'll, after the third set, then we'll begin
Right. I'm fine skipping it, but I don't have strong feelings.
I'll take the opposite position and say just taking a stretch after every 6 gives me a chance to clear my head.
Okay, good. We'll just proceed that way. I just wanted to check in. All right. And City Clerk, could you post the time when we're coming back then? Or how do you want to tell us when the 5 minutes is up?
Mayor, 5 minutes would be 5:48, and I will wait for you to resume the meeting. I'll share my screen now showing a 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible, do you have a 5-minute countdown clock? You do, so you could just use that.
Okay, just one moment.
Probably too late on this one, but it's more like a 4 minutes at this point or whatever, but maybe the next one we can just use the countdown clock on that. I'm looking at the timer there. Is that off? But aren't we ready to start again now?
Yeah, it suddenly went from like 1 minute to 3.
Yes, Mayor, sorry, I clicked it and it accidentally went a little further than expected.
Okay, well, I think actually the break, I found it useful to consolidate my notes and my thoughts. So thank you, Council Member Monroe, for saying that you felt it was continuing to be useful. So with that, if we could start with the next candidates, I'm really appreciating everything I'm hearing so far. So let's hear some more.
The next applicant is Jennifer Vieira, followed by Christine Lusty, followed by Dennis Kai. And Jennifer, we're going to move you over as a panelist. Please have your audio and video on.
Hi, sorry, took me a minute.
No problem, we can hear you.
I just want to thank you guys for having me. I think that I was really surprised to see how many people applied, and it's actually really inspiring to see how many people want to get involved. So I think this is awesome. So thank you for having me. My name is Jennifer, and I have been a resident of Livermore for 7 years. I was born and raised in the East Bay, so I was closer to like Hayward area. And local service really runs deep in my family. So my dad and a lot of my uncles worked for the city of Oakland, and my mom still actually works for Alameda County. So it's always been a part of my life growing up. I graduated from Cal State East Bay. I was a really active student. I started a club on campus and brought guest speakers to campus and ran events and kind of partnered with other clubs. So I was always trying to kind of rally people to get involved and get people excited about, things I was passionate about. During that time, I also interned at KTVU, Channel 2, you guys know the news, in Oakland. And that was a really cool time because I got to know a lot of different parts of the Bay Area and the Tri-Valley and the county. So it was cool to see how everybody in different cities worked together and how communities really overlapped and different priorities overlapped across, the entire county and the entire Bay Area. My degree is in mass communications. I have studied and excelled in both interpersonal and organizational communication. In addition, for the last 10 years, I have dedicated myself to my career as a brand marketing manager. I right now I've always worked for food, but I work for a food company in Tracy right now. And I love taking products and concepts and ideas and turning them into marketable pieces for people to understand and really digest easily. I know that one of the priorities of the council is to kind of help with communication and help with community outreach. So I think that that's a really, I mean, obviously that's really important, but I think that's something that I would focus on if I were chosen for city council. I think my experience both in school and my career would be directly, applicable to this goal. I do believe that the community, probably an applicant said this before, they don't really know what's the inner workings of council and really what's going on. And I don't know that they know how to reach out properly to really have their voices heard. So I think that right now people are so more aware of what's happening just with everything that's happened with COVID. People want to be involved. They're sharing stories and articles and everything every day. So for the city of Livermore and the city council to really be a part of that communication is of the utmost importance. So I think there's a lot of work that we could do there. That would be great. I also think that our local economy is obviously really important. We have a really robust downtown that's full of small businesses, and sadly, they've been shut down for a really long time. And I know there's programs in place. I know there's things that are going to help those businesses as we start to fully open and fully roll out. But I just really hope that the city and the city council can really focus on making sure that the business is open and not end up going under or closing, because those are members of our community and those are, family businesses that we know and we interact with every day. And then I think lastly, one of the most important things about Livermore for me and my family raising my daughter here is really public safety. So I think it should always be a priority. We're a great safe town right now. We have a great police department. There's so many young families that want to move here and live here and raise their families here and raise their kids here. So I think that, as always, support to the police. And as we grow, as a city, as we hit, someone said earlier, 100,000 residents, there's going to be a lot of more difficult challenges. So I think just having, the police front and center, fire front and center, everything, all of our public servants, just really helping and supporting them is really important as well. So I just wanted to thank you guys all for taking the time to listen to me. This is my very first attempt at getting involved. And if another one of the great candidates is chosen, you guys will not see the last of me, because I'm going to sign up for a commission and I'm going to stay involved. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
The next applicant is Christine Lusty, followed by Dennis Kai, followed by Peter Patterson. Christine, we're moving over right now. Please have your audio and video ready.
Good evening, council members. My name is Christine Lusty, and I am a resident here in Livermore. I think in answering the first part of the question, what is the priority for the council in the coming 2 years? Supporting small business is huge for me. I've been involved in small business since I was a small child. I grew up in small business. My dad was a saddle maker and then a construction worker. I've had several small businesses myself. Unfortunately, my last attempt to open a business did not survive, but I'm always looking for new opportunities. The pandemic kind of shut down my last attempt to get going because I had to be home with my children. I have a 9 and a 10-year-old here at home. So working with the schools, working with public health, working with the downtown to get our community as a whole safely open and operating is really big for me. And looking at small business and our downtown, as well as our outlaying, like our wineries and our breweries, I think Livermore has a really great grassroots feel to it and a phenomenal functional family welcomeness. Somebody mentioned earlier competing with Napa. I've been to Napa to go wine tasting, and it's beautiful and it's bougie and it's special, but it is not welcoming for families. And even the most ritzy upscale vineyard in Livermore is very family welcoming. And I love that. With 2 small kids, I'm out there a lot with them. I have been a member of the Chamber of Commerce in the past, and I've missed all of that activity with the shutdown with COVID. I think tourism is a big part of revenue for our community. And again, this is a big part of supporting those small grassroots businesses, because Livermore, being 100,000 strong almost, really retains a fantastic small town feeling. When you walk around downtown, there is community, there is compassion, there is a sense of belonging, whether you've lived here forever or just a few years. And I think that fostering that and encouraging those small businesses and finding ways to support them, especially with all of the extra challenges of COVID, are super important. Why me? I don't have a lot of the experience that many of the other wonderful applicants have. What I do have is a fresh perspective. I've worked in small business. I have kids in the system. I grew up in a very small town in Northeastern Oregon. I chose to make Livermore my home in 2006. And I am so grateful to have it be my children's hometown where they will grow up. To that point, also supporting the police department is huge. One of the things that I absolutely love about Livermore is that not only is it a great police department, but they have a great public relation. Right now on the news, you're seeing a lot of anti-police sentiment in the world. And Livermore has been able to maintain the grace and respect for our police department, getting them involved, getting them out there, allowing them to participate when people had, their rallies this summer. There were a couple of rallies that could have been really ugly, but the city banded together. The cops were there. It turned out to be peaceful protests. It was really a phenomenal effort, which I think needs to be supported. That needs to be paramount, because our city is relatively safe. My 9 and 10-year-old have a nice area, several blocks that they can run feral because I have confidence in my community, in my police presence, and in the relationship between our police and our community members. And I know I've got a minute left, but that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time and good evening.
Well, thank you.
The next applicant is Dennis Kai, followed by Peter Patterson, followed by Eric Payne. Dennis, we're going to go ahead and unmute you. Excuse me, promote you to panelist. There you go.
Mr. Kai, you've been promoted to panelist. Please turn on your audio and video.
Okay, can you see me?
Not yet.
Not yet.
You can see me.
No, not yet.
Virtual background. There's the video. Here we go. But you can hear me and you can see me now.
Yeah, we got you now. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Mark Roberts and Marie Weber for giving some time with me to at least get me understanding what's going on here within this council position and the application process. So with that, I do want to go ahead and address the questions around the priorities. What should the priorities be? And the first thing I'll tell you is from my background, it's first responders. And my hat's off to those first responders in having to respond to this overall pandemic. So from that perspective, with my background in the military and especially with graduation from the Command and General Staff College, understanding national security can probably also relate that down to local security, but most of that should be handled there by the police department and that specific set of groups to include the health departments. So from that perspective, the second priority I would tell you should be, from my thought process, would be the economic health of the community, specifically looking at making sure we're getting the kids back to school, and then the businesses with a focus on the small businesses. Now, I don't have the answer to that, but I'm sure that we can turn around and hold that type of a town hall meeting with the small business owners. They don't have the support of the franchises. The franchise businesses make a lot of sense to be able to support, but it's the small business owners that we do need to reach out to and get an understanding of how we can support them. Finally, I would turn around and look at my third priority in terms of what I would recommend to the council would be homelessness. How do we address that? How do we prevent that from getting worse if we have it? And how can we help them along to get out of that particular situation? So I had the opportunity to reach out, since there doesn't seem to be allowed the interaction here with the staff, and in most interviews I would do that. But I did get a chance to talk with Mr. Mark Roberts today and just ask him, what did you expect of a council member as a city manager? Because it's his staff that's going to provide the recommendations and for us to be informed and to make informed decisions. So from that perspective, the first thing he brought up was time allocation, that if you've never been in the government before, it might be a rough change for you coming out of the private sector. Well, I've got over 20 plus years with the military, and as an Inspector General of the 25th Infantry Division, some of the things that they did talk about was setting policy, budget allocation, and the overall health and welfare morale of the city, state of the city. And as that Inspector General for 18 months, that was my responsibility in providing budget oversight, not setting policy, but watching the policy and ensuring that we had compliance within the perspective of spirit of the regulation, spirit of the law. And as budget allocation, it was merely oversight to ensure that the budgets were being spent properly as allocated. And if there were changes, to understand those changes. Additionally, we did systemic inspections, not compliance inspections, to ensure what went wrong if something didn't have the desired end result. So we'd have to go in and see what we needed to do and fix that little cog in the wheel to make it run. The second thing he brought up was the learning curve. So time allocation he's talking about 20 plus hours. Yes, I'm full-time with GlaxoSmithKline as an account representative, formerly hospitals and about 10 years of management here in the Bay Area. But the 20 hours shouldn't be a problem. It's just a matter of understanding when do you need these meetings to occur. And finally, the interaction with the public, because it's the public that's going to make the decisions or based off the information we can provide them. And so we'll be heavily influenced by them. So what would my interaction be? Well, I will tell you, with over 28 years in the pharmaceutical industry, working with both CEOs, vice presidents of clinical operations, doctors, hospital staffs, their medical assistants, if I wasn't successful in being able to interact, I wouldn't be with the company for 28 years. So from that perspective, I wanted to turn around and reach out and humbly submit my application for the position and thank you for the time and being able to consider that. My question to you is, what questions would you have of me? And what is the unique experience that you're asking me to bring to the table, not knowing what you already have? From that perspective, I can tell you I've served United States Army Pacific and running international programs. And those international programs are more so war games, where I had to do the planning and integration of international staff, not in separate departments, but as staff members. And so with that also being recognized for that by the commanding general or the commanding officer of, in this particular case, Yamasakura, and that's basically the defense of Japan. So from that aspect, I want to go ahead and humbly submit my application to you for your consideration. I saw a lot of folks had gotten endorsements. I didn't realize you wanted endorsements, but if it's on demand, I will gladly have a few of my folks reach out to you and submit those. And I want to apologize. I did not get a chance to submit my military resume to you. So if there's anything else, please, if there's a question for me, I'll gladly respond.
No, I think we're not asking questions at this time, but thank you very much for your letting us know what your priorities are and why we should select you. So we're on to, yeah.
And how much time do I still have remaining?
I think you've gone over time.
My bad. Well, thanks for the time.
But not by much, so nothing to worry about.
All righty, sir.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
The next applicant is Peter Patterson, followed by Eric Payne, followed by Nathaniel Moore. Mr. Patterson, we're moving you over to panelists right now. Please have your audio and video ready.
Sorry, guys. Technology is just gets the best of everyone. First off,
no problem. We can see you and hear you now.
Well, first off, Bob Warner, congratulations, sir. Mayor, awesome job. Brittany, hey, ran a hard race. You keep smiling over there, but I almost got you by a long shot. But it was a good race. Mr. Carling, Vice Mayor, good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Patterson. I'm a lifelong resident who recently ran for District 3 City Council. I am by no means trade politician, but certainly interest in wanting to make Livermore a better place and safer place for all. There are so many challenges that our city faces, not only including infrastructures and unsheltered residents by navigating a pro-COVID world. That being said, a few ideas came to mind. The first is our small businesses. As our governor has lifted the stay-at-home order today, we as a city need to come up with a blueprint goal to safely and reopen our downtown Livermore. Upon attending the last city council meeting, while addressing the small business funding, it was observed that we overlooked the bigger picture of which is the financial well-being of the employees with these small businesses they call family. Infrastructure is also a point of interest for me, as Livermore has many of our roads that are deteriorating and needing focus. The unused land of Livermore has been kept empty shopping areas for the Greenville Road must be reevaluated and considered for an alternative solutions. Many buildings and roads have started to show their age by cracking, wear, tear. I also am concerned about the sewage pipeline that runs through Livermore, as one of our recent been worked on, as well as our electrical grid that we do need to show attention to. With all that being said, the water has been brown for quite some time, and that has voiced a lot of concerns for our Livermore residents. Our unsheltered residents also need some attention, as they too have been affected not just by the elements, but by the pandemic as well. Utilizing local resources to help them take care of their certainty and ensure their safety for health and addressing health and well-being addressed. In doing so, we can lessen the continual fires behind Walmart that are plagued by the unsheltered community and our occupancy. With the education and resources, we can get these citizens up to their feet and into the workforce. Livermore needs a solution that's space alternatives that will come to for our instructors from our unsheltered residents. With that being said, why me? Well, ran from the last election, 2.5 months of running, we had 41%, which was an outstanding turnout. Moving forward, we can definitely do some good into our community, listen to our residents, but also, generate quite a bit of revenue into our town. Livermore has always been, kind of the off-sided venture. We need to make Livermore #1 again. And that's why I'm running for city council. We need to start make Livermore #1 again. Thank you, council, for your time. And Vice Mayor, I'm sorry for your loss. That is a horrible thing. So with that, everyone have a great night.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Thanks.
The next applicant is Eric Payne, followed by Nathaniel Moore, who is the 6th applicant, so we'll have a 5-minute break. After the break, we will hear from Arthur Berenique. Mr. Payne, we will be moving you over as a panelist. Please have your audio and video ready.
How's that? I gotcha.
Yes, you're good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Trish, our thoughts and prayers are with you. I lost both my parents at a young age, so I will send some good prayers your way. I am a proud 2nd-generation Livermorean. My grandparents moved here in the early 50s, proudly worked at the Livermore Lawrence National Laboratory, and raised my mother and her 3 brothers here. With the exception of college, law school, and a few years in Mountain House, my wife and I always kept our roots here in Livermore. Like my wife and I, my 2 children will also be graduates of Livermore schools. I'm a small technology startup owner here in the city of Livermore, and employ 8 other proud Livermoreans. I'm proud to say that I owe a lot of credit to Brandon Cardwell and the city of Livermore for opening up the Switch, the collaborative workspace, which is where my company got started just a few short years ago. Now we're grown and we're into another building here in downtown Livermore. Needless to say, I absolutely love this town. I know we're a city, but to me, it's still a town. You feel like you know everybody. However, in reality, you can meet someone new each and every day. I truly didn't plan to re-enter government, the government sector again, but the issues facing this community are just too great not to. So, having been elected and subsequently appointed to the first de facto mayor of the small town of Mountain House during the horrific housing crisis in the late 2000s, definitely taught me a great deal about leadership and how city government can help guide its city and citizens through a crisis. In my time serving in Mountain House, we successfully turned a housing development into a community. I started the Little League and soccer programs, collaborated with developers, the nation's largest home builders, and worked closely with our city staff to ensure Mountain House would make it through a harsh financial downturn and continue to grow and meet the goals of the general plan. Although moving back to Livermore was our goal, I truly believe you can set roots in a community by simply being passionate about your town and motivating others to do the same. Our city finds itself at a little bit of a crossroads. Thanks to many of you on the council, we've made some great progress as a city, but the pandemic is still threatening many of our businesses and our citizens. I'd like to leverage what I've learned from my previous city government experience and work closely with each of you during my 2 years to address what I believe are 3 key issues. First and foremost is our local economy. Our local businesses, especially our downtown, have really taken a hit. I'm close friends with many of the restaurant owners, small minority interest owner in Sauce Barbecue and Spirits, and know firsthand the pain that these fellow entrepreneurs are going through. We must continue to carry out all of the hard work that our city has done to this point in building our downtown. For as long as I can remember, it was Pleasanton that had the coolest downtown. That all changed several years back, and now Livermore downtown is the force to be reckoned with, and I want to keep it that way. We must continue to find ways to support and encourage local businesses at this time, particularly restaurants, salons, and other service industries hardest hit by the pandemic. A few that are top of mind, some which may already be on the table, is halting or deferring financial burdens the city places on small business where we can, creating maybe a local relief fund with some financing options. I know we've done some of that via gift cards, providing enhanced support to these businesses applying for various SBA loans, the PPP and EIDL, continuing to evaluate the impact of small businesses through surveys. I know Mayor Warner, you're on 15 Zoom calls with restaurants weekly. We really appreciate the support in the year. Or maybe creating a central online repository for resources and information. It's a single source for businesses to get information on what they can do and what the city is doing for them. We need businesses to thrive again and continue to find creative ways to support and help them. I don't think there's a single solution, but I'm ready to dig in and partner with each of you to find them all. Second is affordable housing. Livermore's mean housing prices is high 8s to low 9s, well out of reach most and certainly first-time home buyers. I know this pain. When we were buying our first home, Livermore was out of reach and Mountain House became home until we could afford to be back. Affordable housing is personal to me as my uncle was homeless for years until my mom was able to bring him in. And my younger brother is currently looking for a house, but Livermore is out of his range. I look forward to partnering with each of you to look at available land in Livermore that maybe isn't zoned accordingly for housing, and perhaps you look at rezoning land or land with industrial buildings in order to build more affordable housing so that more of our residents who want to have the joy of home ownership can. And lastly, I want to work to unite our city. With so much divisiveness and polarization in our world today, it's important to have our town as unified as possible. I truly believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I want to help unite the city by working with each of you to ensure we continue to be a place where all people feel welcome, families feel safe, businesses thrive, entrepreneurs continue to see an opportunity in Livermore to start a business, and home buyers can find affordable housing. I really appreciate the opportunity to be considered to work alongside each of you, and I look forward to getting to work right away. Thanks a bunch and have a great night.
Okay, thank you. You too.
The next applicant is Nathaniel Moore, followed by The Break, and then after The Break, Arthur Berenique and Samantha Valdez. So Nathaniel, we'll be moving you over. There you go.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, and city staff. Thank you for taking time to talk with me tonight. You've heard from a lot of great folks here who have phenomenal ideas, and I think that any one of them would be a great asset to the city. I think I would also be a great asset to the city. The 2 questions posed to us are, what's priorities for us and why us? For me, my priorities are a little bit different. I am concerned about the price of housing. I'm interested in doing what we can to stop the infighting and move forward with the downtown plan. It's really been quite bitter, that argument. I'm interested in working on emergency preparedness. As we saw the wildfires just last summer, a lot of people came and said, well, what are we supposed to do? There was a lot of fear. People didn't know. And so while the city may have good plans, and I think that discussions about turning the freeways backwards and stuff like that were on the table, those are not well communicated out to the community. And having the community be aware of these things is critically important. One of the other things that really impacts Livermore is climate change, whether we like to admit it or not. We're regularly subject to drought, and water is one of our most precious resources, and how we use it, conserve it, reuse it, repurpose it, and stretch it to care for our populace is critically important to us. We need to be watching our jobs. We've seen high-tech jobs from companies like Oracle, Cisco, even Kaiser's IT department or Talos make it as far as Dublin and Pleasanton, and they just don't make it quite over to Livermore. With the fact that these are high wage earning jobs, and a lot of people are concerned about keeping their property values up. Number one way to keep property values in a good shape is to ensure there are high paying jobs available for folks to come. And another part is the why me? Why Nate? Did 8 years with state government. I know how to reach across the boundaries, the aisles, working with the judicial system and engaging with the Department of Justice are things that I had to do on a regular basis, and especially engaging with some of the more vulnerable aspects of our societies. I work in cybersecurity, currently protecting a large volume of COVID research data is my day-to-day job. There's a significant amount of work involved with that, but understanding that at the end of this, there's people, and ultimately it's the people that we need to be caring for. The other reason why me is much more personal. My late father had a thing when you hear someone say, somebody ought to do something. And I'm here now because of that thing. Whenever somebody says somebody ought to do something, I am somebody. I need to step up. I need to get involved, and I need to do something to help my fellow citizens. And so that's why I'm here. And I hope that I can bring to City Council a unique view on tech jobs, a unique view on emergency preparedness, on climate change, and economic items. These are all key things, and blending them together is critically important for us. I think that no matter who we choose tonight, or I'm sorry, who the council chooses tonight, they will do their level-headed best to do what is right for the city. And I hope to be included in the list of people that's granted the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
After the break, we will hear from Arthur Bernique, Samantha Valdez, and Kira Prevere.
Okay. Okay, it looks like we're all back and we can resume.
All right, the next applicant is Arthur Barinke, and I apologize, I've been pronouncing it wrong, followed by Samantha Valdez and Kira Previer. So we'll be promoting you over to panelist.
Check one, check two. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, welcome. You're good to go.
Great. Thank you. Before I answer, I'd like to offer peace to the land, to Mother Earth, our ancestors, our animal relatives, and indigenous family. For our Black brothers and sisters, this is for you. A moment for those around the world who have suffered from coronavirus and who are not here with us today. And to all those that are suffering currently in any way, shape, or form, I send you my love. The most important priorities for Council to tackle in the next 2 years. People, all people, making people top priority, being inclusive and equitable, mindful and intentional, with resources for people's health, wellness, well-being, their healing, their safety, their way of living, their housing and food needs. Maintaining growth while under duress, building infrastructure intelligently, focusing on balanced growth, while keeping open space and climate change top priorities, as well as our footprint here as we live in the Tri-Valley and in this pandemic world as well. Reopening post-pandemic. Once restrictions lift and we continue on in a new world, it'll take ingenuity, imagination, creativity, direction, and swift action. What will Livermore be like? We can start to imagine and create that now. We can build this cross-agency, including regional partners, down to our small business owners. This environment currently takes focus, dedication, and discipline, a few qualities I've developed. I can take everything and everyone into account, thinking of future generations while honoring our past. I can move us forward with compassion and unity. My connection to the people, places, and things of Livermore and the spirit of this town is why I am the perfect candidate. They don't call me Mr. Livermore for no reason. My personal and community work reflects this and will continue to do so moving forward. I'm inspired by all the applicants tonight. The number and quality of applicants shows that people in our community care deeply, and that's part of what makes this community happen. People want to be involved. Council, I commend you. You have a big decision to make, and I trust that you will make the right one for us all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
The next applicant is Samantha Valdez, followed by Kira Previer, followed by Neil Pan. Samantha, we're moving you over as the panelist. Please have your audio and video ready.
Hello, welcome. You're good to go.
Oh, okay. You can see me and hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So greetings everyone tonight. My name is Samantha Valdez and I am a 24-year-old recent graduate of UC Berkeley, like Vice Mayor Monroe. I am currently the communications specialist and food pantry assistant for the nonprofit Tri-Valley Haven. As you may know, the Tri-Valley Haven is a domestic violence, sexual assault, and homelessness organization. I would like to remind everyone present that if you need someone to talk to or need help during the ongoing pandemic, to please call our 24/7 crisis line at 1-800-884-8119. Now, the most important priorities, in my opinion, for the council to tackle over the length of my term are accessibility to housing, homelessness, healthcare, and job opportunities. I would like to take this time to explicitly focus on the housing crisis in the Bay Area and how it's presented itself in Livermore. I'd like to ask the question, what is considered affordable housing in Livermore? Kids who grew up here, such as myself, cannot afford to live here and raise families here. This has caused a mass exodus from the Bay Area, as it is very difficult to become established here, and this is already present in Livermore. The current AMI for the area is $117,000 per year. For housing for Section 8 or HUD is measured by 30% and 50% of that income. 30% is considered very low income, which is for this area $35,100 a year. Before taxes, I make $36,000 a year working for our local nonprofit. As a woman and a millennial, I cannot move out in this area. How are council members supposed to live in a district if they cannot afford it? This results ultimately in a lack of diversity due to affordability. Without young people being involved, who will we have to take on the responsibilities in the future? If this council position was not open, I would not be able to afford to run a campaign. As for the current council's agenda for 2019 to 2021, I align with the agenda towards housing, such as supporting housing legislation that promotes the development and enhancement of a diverse workforce, and supporting legislation that provides financial assistance, improved access to, and expansion of healthcare, mental health, and drug addiction services for low-income and homeless individuals. Now, I know the agenda for the council has been affected by COVID-19, and now more than ever is housing an ultimate right for this area. Housing also serves as a form of healthcare. If people do not have adequate housing, they do not have the luxury of sheltering in place, especially if the jobs they work for are not in the area. That has become a more recent priority that I believe the council has begun to focus on with the development of low-income housing on Chestnut Street and in the downtown area. And I would like to be a part of this council to continue with that. And I would love to learn from Vice Mayor Monroe, being on the subcommittee for homelessness and housing. I asked the council to please consider me for this position for a few reasons. One, I am younger. I do have more perspectives to offer in that sense. The voter turnout was high for the youth this year. Also, I am a woman. I'm also mixed race. My father is Hispanic. Since I am a mixed race young woman, I like to believe I could add a lot of diversity to the council. I am homegrown. I grew up and graduated and never left this town, even when I went to UC Berkeley. And because of that, I graduated Granada High School in 2014, and I was a member of the community outreach program in the leadership area. And I developed fundraising groups with the community to raise $5,000 to build a sustainable water resource in Ghana. I work for the Tri-Valley Haven, so I am adequate in knowing what the community needs from all levels, and the need for homeless services and housing and health. I have worked for the federal government. I previously worked for Congressman Eric Swalwell. I was his district scheduler. I also babysat his kids. So I have a very close experience with federal government and meeting with constituents. Our city council has generationally looked a certain way, and while it is positively changing with the addition of member Kick, it can continue with me. And that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for considering me for this position. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Perfect timing.
The next applicant is Kira Prevere, followed by Neil Pan, followed by Melissa Lynch. Okay, Kira, we're going to move you over.
Okay, we can see you, and I think you're good to go.
Sorry, I was waiting for my picture to change. I apologize. Okay, good evening, Honorable Mayor Warner, Vice Mayor Monroe, and Council Members Carleen and Kick, and members of the community. My name is Kyra Previer, and I have applied for the position of City Council Member. The most important priorities for Council to tackle over the length of my term are housing and human services, particularly the Unhoused Residents Initiative, and community development and beautification of the city. These services prioritize keeping Livermore a safe and desirable place to live. The number of unhoused residents in Livermore is a combination of people from Livermore, as well as the surrounding cities in the Tri-Valley and throughout Alameda County. Not every individual and their circumstance is the same, which is why the root and cause of their situations should be addressed. I've experienced firsthand what addiction and homelessness looks like, and unfortunately, when my loved one became incarcerated, it was the only time we had a sense of relief because we knew there was a roof over their head. But then, a few days or weeks later, when they were released, they would be consumed by the same plight and predicament, the underlying cause not being addressed. We need to prioritize housing and human services to find better, individualized solutions to help our unhoused residents get the help they need to find permanent housing, as well as address the underlying cause of their homelessness so it stops the cycle. With the expanding numbers of the Equity and Inclusion Committee, now is a terrific opportunity to create a separate subcommittee filled with people from all walks of life and different perspectives to formulate different possible solutions to make this a priority. In addition to prioritizing housing and human services, community development and beautification of the city should also take precedence. Community development means more than adding new infrastructure. Our city should strive to build on what we already have, respecting Livermore's history and culture. As a historian and lifelong learner, I'd like to challenge ourselves to conduct research and perhaps add art, statues, or monuments of those who may have been previously overlooked in Livermore's 151-year history, while simultaneously not taking anything away from it. We are I apologize. We are a diverse community, and we should celebrate who we were, are, and will become. Additionally, back at the turn of the century, Livermore was ranked as one of the top 15 safest cities nationwide and one of the top 5 safest cities in California, which is why my parents moved me and my siblings here. A large part of gaining the rank as one of the safest cities in the nation and state was and is the proactive policing done by our wonderful police department. Something that makes our city different from others in Alameda County is the ability of our police officers to be proactive and prevent a lot of crime from happening because people are aware that they are always patrolling, keeping our community safe. They also continue to maintain a working relationship with members of the community and conduct many outreach projects throughout our town. Helping to address our unhoused residents, as well as add new projects that celebrate and add to our history, and continuing proactive police work will also help to bring our city back to these national safety rankings. Before COVID, my husband and I were seriously considered moving to Texas. The first thing I did when researching a place to move my family was to evaluate the safety of that city. I'm sure I'm not the only person who has done this. Since COVID, my husband and I decided to stay in Livermore and resolved to become more involved in our community and strive to change different aspects that prompted our move to begin with. So I ask, what do we want people to see when they search Livermore? As a mother of 3 small children, I want to know that my children live in a safe city, that wherever they go within our town, they are protected. Providing our unhoused residents the help they need, enriching our community with building projects that encompass who we are, and beautifying the city so anywhere in our town is a desirable place to live will help to make that happen. We should also create a larger welcome sign to greet people who come into Livermore. I think we've outgrown the sign on the barrels at North Livermore and Portola. Something that says, "This is Livermore, and we welcome you to our town." I should be selected as city council member for a number of reasons. First, I have no personal political agenda. I am a 15-year resident and current employee of the city and am incredibly vested in its future. My children and quite possibly grandchildren will grow up here, and their futures will in part be determined by the city and the policies thereof. I am passionate about improving our already thriving city and helping to move it into the future with only the best interest for Livermore and its residents in mind. Furthermore, I believe that if appointed, I am the voice for the community I represent. I may not always see eye to eye with others. However, I am always open to new perspectives and balanced discussions. I also recognize that there will be periods of time where my fellow community members have differing viewpoints than my own. As a city council member and representative of the community I love, I know I will need to concede my own interests and will do so willingly and respectfully, as that is what this position entails. I would like to thank the members of our community who took the time to write letters of support on my behalf. And I would also like to thank Honorable Mayor Warner, Vice Mayor Monroe, and Council members Carlene and Kick for their time this evening, and would humbly ask that they appoint me as City Council member. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
The next applicant is Neil Pan, who would have been followed by Melissa Lynch, but she is not logged in yet. So after Neil, we will go to Abigail Helfer. Neil, going to move you over as an applicant, excuse me, as a panelist.
Okay, there we go. Good evening, Mayor Warner and members of the City Council. I appreciate the opportunity for interviewing for the vacant City Council position this evening. Growing up in Livermore has greatly impacted my life and career. What started me on my journey as an architect was working for Livermore architect Mike Farrell in the Southern Pacific Railroad Depot after graduating from Granada High School. Mike's influence as a graduate of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo led me to study architecture at Cal Poly. Through the architecture program there, I studied for a year in Florence, Italy. Growing up in Livermore and spending that year abroad have helped form my thoughts on some of the most important issues facing the city today, including opportunities for businesses, housing, and the importance of community. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted and changed our lives in profound ways. It is the backdrop to the world's, the country's, and our city's most pressing concern. Exploring ways to provide opportunities for businesses, which are the lifeblood and economic engine that drive the services that the city provides, to help them survive during these times is paramount. The city must do everything it can to work together as a council, along with the other cities of the Tri-Valley, the county, and the state, to cooperate and successfully navigate through this pandemic to emerge even stronger. We have a most resourceful community and city staff, and I'm confident that this is something we can do. For more than 40 years, Livermore has balanced housing growth and provided services through the Housing Implementation Program. Through this program, the Urban Growth Boundary and the Scenic Corridor, Livermore is poised to embrace future housing while preserving the qualities that residents expect. The city is making progress towards the goal of providing additional housing. We need to continue partnering with our affordable housing developers and those faith-based organizations that help the homeless and work on innovative ways to ease the housing crisis and provide housing for everyone who wants to call Livermore home. Guiding housing and growth is the Livermore General Plan. This document has provided the blueprint for the city that we enjoy today. Over the next 2 years, the critical task of updating that document will occur. It is important that the council embraces the public and professional recommendations in updating the plan, which will guide the future of Livermore, serving to outline where and how to grow and what to preserve. The current general plan resulted in the vibrant downtown and community we enjoy today. And while we cannot predict the future, the general plan will be the document that directs the city. Living in Florence, Italy exposed me to the importance of how housing density and public spaces, along with locally owned businesses, create a foundation that we call community. Community is Livermore's most important asset. While everyone does not always see eye to eye or agree on the same course, it is the sense of Livermore pride that excites me, knowing that we are all working towards the same goal, when that is what is best for Livermore. This community and pride are something you can feel by experiencing downtown, the local wine country, and surrounding spaces. This is Livermore, and having an understanding of the history along with the architectural fabric of the city is crucial when it comes to making decisions that affect the entire community. These essential values are cherished and will guide me throughout the next 2 years as a member of the council. Working in the depot with the architect Mike Farrell provided inspiration for a term paper I wrote while attending what we now know as Las Positas College. It was a research paper on the history of the Livermore Depot. This published work was discovered by the Heritage Guild, who encouraged me to provide my experience about the history of the building at its public hearing where relocating the depot was on the agenda. Speaking at this public hearing ignited my desire to serve, and soon after I applied to the Historic Preservation Commission. This launched me on a journey where I volunteered and served on the aforementioned Historic Preservation Commission and then the Livermore Planning Commission. To expand my knowledge, I participated in the year-long Livermore Valley Chamber of Commerce Leadership Livermore class that taught multiple facets about the community and city government. I continue this passion for learning by volunteering and graduating in class 34 of the Livermore Police Department's Citizens Police Academy. After my time on the Planning Commission, I've continued to serve as a board member of Livermore Downtown, Inc. This thirst for serving, along with my expertise and professional career experience, combined with growing up in Livermore, make me uniquely qualified to serve the community by being a member of the City Council. My hope is that my service will inspire the next generation of leaders so they are as proud as I am to call Livermore home. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Melissa Lynch was scheduled to be interviewed next, but is not logged in. So we'll continue the interview with Abigail Helfer. Abigail, we're going to move you over to a panelist. Please have your audio and video on.
Hello, we can see and hear you.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I am Abby Helfer, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to interview for the position of City Council member today. First, I want to say it makes me so inspired to see all of the applicants for this position. I think it really represents how eager people are to be involved with the City of Livermore. A little bit about me. I am a business coach and mentor for small business owners. I work with my clients on business growth, development, and social media marketing. I also own a real estate company and offer multifamily apartments located in my hometown of West Virginia. First, I want to say that I'm so happy to call Livermore my home. I've spent the last almost decade of my life traveling and living abroad while my husband was serving active duty military. And now I'm so grateful to put roots down into this beautiful city. In my opinion, there are 3 priorities for council to tackle over the length of this term. Number 1 is COVID-19 pandemic recovery and economy stimulation. COVID is a pressing priority for the foreseeable future. And I think we have to have a playbook to support small businesses, not only through the pandemic, but also through the next stage of recovery and economy stimulation. We also have to take into account that people have created patterns during quarantine, especially around the ease of online shopping. So we need to be forward thinking around leading the city and shopping small post-pandemic. We must continue to support small businesses so that we can keep a thriving downtown. When the world reopens, travel is going to be a booming industry again. In stimulating the economy in Livermore, I think we should also consider our marketing efforts and getting Livermore on the map as a go-to destination, a wine city destination, so that we can increase tourism and stimulate our local economy here. Along the lines of COVID-19, pandemic recovery, and economy stimulation, we also have to continue to address homelessness here in Livermore, like we're doing with the Affordable Housing Project. The second priority that would be important to me is promoting sustainability and environmental protection. Right now, one of the most pressing concerns that we are all facing is climate change. A changing climate can profoundly impact the planet and most specifically impact California. We need to continue the great work of the Climate Action Plan so that we can reduce our footprint and that we can protect our environment and continue to have high quality life here for all of our residents. With this action plan, we also need to be proactive about the impacts that climate change will have on Livermore. So that includes disproportionate effects that climate change will have on low-income households. We need to create an emergency plan and have preparedness ready for the future effects of climate change. The third priority is enhancing community engagement and transparency. Community engagement is so important. A strong relationship between local government and residents is vital, and engagement with the community leads to more sustainable, more equitable policies happening, decisions being made, and it just improves the quality of life for Livermore residents. So I know that this has been a very divisive year in 2020, and I think our work moving forward should be to re-engage and bring Livermore residents together. So why me? After this past year, 2020, I am more passionate than ever to be involved in politics and with my local government, and I'm eager to serve. And I think I bring something like super unique to Livermore Council. First, I bring my experience as a business coach, a mentor, and supporting small businesses, along with owning 2 businesses myself. I also talk to small business owners every single day. I know their struggles, I know their needs, especially through this pandemic. I also have extensive experience in social media marketing and public speaking. I bring a fresh, young perspective, and I believe that building community involvement is so important. And I think my skills in social media will be beneficial in finding creative ways to create engagement and encourage youth involvement in our city. I also have a unique life journey that has given me so much perspective and knowledge. Being active in military communities, especially when we were living overseas, has really showed me the importance of community engagement and participation. By being a military spouse, physical home was always changing. So I created opportunities to be involved and active on social media, and I'm bringing a strong community behind me to Livermore online. I also believe that my time living in Japan and Italy has really impacted me and changed my perspective of the world. I've learned how to be flexible, how to adapt, and how to see the world from different perspectives. Lastly, I bring valuable interpersonal skills to this position that are so important for modern leadership. I'm a coach. I know how to facilitate powerful conversation. I know how to hold empowering space for people, and I can bring people together. I'm naturally empathetic and compassionate, and I truly care about making sure that everyone feels heard and represented. I understand that as a city council member, I will be representing the people of Livermore. And one of my best qualities is the fact that I can listen, truly listen to what people want and need and make them feel heard. I believe I will bring a perspective, and I'm eager to contribute to the city.
Well, thank you very much. Does that conclude the list of people that we're going to hear from?
Yes, it does.
Okay, at this point, and we just want to say that some of the candidates have mentioned that very impressive list of people that we've heard from, a lot of passion here, and I'm glad we made the decision to listen to everyone. However, that does make our decision very tough because we only got one spot, and we've heard from a good number of very excellent people. So I think at this point, Councilmember Kick wanted to spend a little bit of time now that we've heard from everyone, and without giving people the answer to the question, I think Councilmember Kick, you wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what's important to us. Not that we want to, at this point, I believe, pick a candidate or anything like that, but I think you just wanted to say,
just to think about what's happening in the next 2 years and make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, like if we were asked to
I don't think that's a good idea at all. So I'm just going to.
I think what we, as I recall, in the last council meeting, Councilmember Kick requested that we have a little bit. So that was my recollection. Am I recalling it correctly?
No, I thought that would maybe be a good next step. But if Carling feels strongly that we should just move, are you suggesting we just move towards sending Marie our thoughts?
Yes, because I don't want anything I say to influence anybody else, and I don't want what you say to influence me. I think we should make decisions and get our top 3 to Marie, and then, I'm happy for extensive discussion at that point.
Afterwards. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I can see how that would be potentially changing your mind when we should focus on what was in the applications and what was just said rather than each other.
And I think we've seen in other cities where inadvertent conversation possibly could have influenced. So we'll have plenty of time after we see our initial list, because when the list is sent to the city clerk and she compiles it, that's not the done deal. That's just the starting point for our conversation.
The rest of the conversation. Absolutely.
The way I think about it. Is that also, Councilmember Carling, what you were thinking?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I think Vice Mayor Monroe may have wanted to say something. Do you want to add to this at this point, or do we want to
No,
just?
I was just going to say, I'm going to continue my agnostic stance on this. I'm happy to go with that.
All right, well, good. I'm glad we at least, had the conversation. I just wanted to be consistent with what we said. We wanted to acknowledge our past deliberations on this. So with that, I think we're going to take a total of 20 minutes, and that's to give the council members up to 15 minutes to deliberate among, think about it ourselves. I've got a lot of notes here that I want to go through. I thought we heard a lot of, as I said, great people. This is not easy. And so we'll send our top 3 candidates for consideration to Marie. And within 20 minutes from now, we'll reconvene and Marie will have compiled what we said. Is that okay? So
Yes.
is it possible to put a 20-minute timer on at this point?
Mayor, I do not have a 20-minute timer, but I do have a slide that will return in 20 minutes.
Okay, and okay, we'll do that. Or you could do your 5 minutes 4 times, but let's do that. 20 minutes, and let's see, the time is it's 6:57. So why don't we just say at 7:20, just to round it.
Sure.
7:20 we'll reconvene.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate everyone who spoke to us. Very well done.
I will say that I wasn't so sure about your idea, Bob, but you were right. It was definitely worth it.
Well, it was off the wall and semi-crazy, but I think it worked.
Absolutely worth it. Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay. See you in 20. Well, it looks like we're all back.
Sorry, I forgot to put my thing on.
No problem. I think things are going reasonably smoothly, so a few seconds here or there doesn't matter. So at this point, I think we'd ask the city clerk to tell us what she got from us.
Give her a minute. I sent mine in at the last possible minute because I was stressing out over here.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Well,
you. I should be done in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, but even before, okay, so we can take a couple of seconds and figure out how we want to do the next step. I think at this point, Councilmember Kick, you wanted to talk about our criteria. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just, trying to think about what's coming down the pipeline in the next 2 years that are things that might not be happening for a while. And the number one thing that's happening in the next 2 years that doesn't happen very often is the general plan. And so that's a really big guiding document of the city, which is why I was keeping that top of mind as I was looking through, and then trying to think about people who have different skill sets and different skill sets than I, obviously, and from some of the rest of us. So that general plan document was just top of mind, especially as I'm going through my training and really starting to understand how valuable and important understanding land use is, and how much I still have to learn. So that's why that was definitely my top of mind item, specific document, specific thing that will happen in the next 2 years.
Okay. Would anyone else care to comment on their criteria?
Sure. So I think general plan you're right about that. But to your point about something that's going to happen in the next couple of years, we haven't faced is getting out of COVID and the pandemic. And I appreciated the number of people that recognize that as something that the next 2 years is going to be really important. Is to how we recover that, how we help the small businesses. So that was one thing that caught my mind. I mean, in addition to the general plan, I'm not suggesting that's not important. I would also say climate and the climate action plan, I think, is also something that's going to come before us in the next 2 years, and how we might address that. And of course, the homelessness was brought up by nearly everybody. And of course, Vice Mayor and I, that's very close to what we've been involved in. So I think that was also something that caught my attention.
So I came in thinking about degree of experience that this is. I got to tell you, I started with coming from almost zero. I spent a year more sitting and going to council meetings, but I got to tell you that if I had been one of these applicants, I wouldn't have picked me from where I started from. So it's a different process being coming. There are people who just have a broader, deeper level of experience that I would have picked over me if I were part of this particular pool. I'm not. I ran for office. I won. It's a different kind of thing. I was starting from wanting that deep experience, both for the general plan, but also for understanding issues like infrastructure, for understanding issues like how do we think about plans going forward given pandemic and so on. So that was where I started. As I listened to everybody, I thought about as Councilmember Carling said, those topics that kept coming up again and again and again. And I actually have a list of 7, which I'm just going to read because I can't remember which ones Councilmember Carling said. the economy and the economic consequences of COVID. I mean, so the pandemic itself, plus its economic consequences, affordable housing and homelessness. And I was really impressed with the number of people who understood the link between those two. How we solve that's another story, but understanding how they're linked is great. Communication and community engagement. I mean, again, this is something that both the ability to engage with the community and how you do it from both ends really is I was impressed with the number of people who thought that was important. Public safety and the appreciation, and public safety as understood by giving people a safe environment, and then also by the first responders. And then I think there were a few people who mentioned the place of the community in making us a safe place as well. So I thought it was interesting to hear those different understandings of that. A lot of people talked about they used the word unity. I would say, I put it a little differently, listening across the divisions, but finding ways to come together in a particularly divisive time. Listening to the underrepresented voices, the number of people who are like, hey, I'm here, get me involved. Fantastic. And then, of course, climate change. So those were the issues that came to mind. That didn't come to mind. Those were the issues that I just kept hearing again and again. I would like to suggest that we make it possible. We've only got one spot, but it's truly essential that we get those voices heard, those people involved, that we find spaces for them right now to do work with the city. We got you guys. Let's get you involved and keep you involved. So
thank you all for what you focused on, and I saw a lot of the same things. And what I was also struck with was the passion for people to contribute. And I agree that we want to get them involved. Maybe not right now, not this evening, but maybe tomorrow. But I found it really difficult to make a choice here in some ways. For number one, I went for experience and breadth, and not just with city government, but also with nonprofits and just a breadth for the contributions. And I think a number of people pointed to the fact that they had that breadth, but I went for the one that had, I thought, the most, and that was it. And again, I was looking at what we heard tonight, plus the applications and the references and everything. The other thing that I also wanted to acknowledge really is the sense of the diversity and a unique perspective. So there is the need to tackle the really tough problems and to have the experience, but I also wanted to put something out there to say that another perspective on how to think about our community would be worth it. So that was also weighed in my mind. But I hope that we can capture all of the people and have them help us unify the community and make things better. Because we have a lot of tough problems in front of us, and the more competent, engaged people we have, the better off we will be as a community. So that's what I was thinking, and it sounds to a great extent there was a fair amount of similarity in what we were thinking. So with that, Marie, are you ready to tell us what our starting point is for our deliberations?
I am, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with the tabulation, and then I'll also read the votes aloud for those of us who have logged in over the phone. So the votes came in from Mayor Warner, number 1, Regina Bonanno, number 2, Evan Branning, number 3, Kyra Previer. From Vice Mayor Monroe, number 1, Regina Bonanno, number 2, Evan Branning, and number 3, Eric Payne. From Councilmember Carling, number 1, Regina Bonanno, number 2, Abigail Helfer, and number 3, Kyra Previer. And from Councilmember Kick, number 1, Regina Bonanno, number 2, Faith Nordvik, and number 3, Evan Branning.
So with that, do we need further discussion or do we need a motion? It's up to the rest of my fellow council members at this point.
Well, before we make a motion, I'm excited to see this list. I think that we obviously had some agreement in a lot of places, but I'm also really happy to see that we didn't have the same everything. You know, I would invite anybody who, whether they made this short list or, you know, just applied, to reach out to current council now, because this is an appointment for 2 years. There are elections in 2 years. There are plenty of commissions. There are always seats opening up. And one of the most valuable things that I did when running and really getting up to speed in this position was informational interviews. That's how I learned. That's the best way that I learned. But it would be really valuable to, you know, call us up. I know I would be fine with it. I'm sure the rest of council would love to have conversations as well, but I'll let them make that promise themselves. So I would love to hear from everybody who maybe doesn't get the spot, because there's plenty of room for you and we need your help.
If I could, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll
very quickly then. I was just going to mention that the next place that everyone who participated in this should participate next is on our goal setting. And I would also ask people to participate in our norms and values, and where we talk about how we interact with each other, with the community, and with the city staff. And I heard a lot of good thoughts tonight, and I would welcome everybody to participate in the next few sessions, because it'll be critical to how we go about our business for the next couple of years.
So it was a very, very difficult. I think picking number one, picking the new council member was actually clearly a decision we agreed on. What was interesting to me were the next group, and that was much harder. The people that were chosen across for all of us would have been on my list to interview. In other words, those people did stand out. I had to, you know, I didn't quite flip coins. That would be a bad thing to say. So I didn't say it. But there was this sense that there's people who I want to keep engaged. And the list that we as a council came up with is that list. Everyone else as well, I want to keep engaged, but we've got good people out there. That's one thing. The other thing is, what's going on with Key to the City? Because that to me was the thing that really got me engaged to start with. I know that COVID has made it difficult, but boy, I'd sure love to see every single one of the people who have not yet, who applied, who have not yet taken that program, take that program. Mr. City Manager, thoughts?
At this point, good evening. This is Mark Roberts, your City Manager. Key to the City is on our list of things to do, and it really is going to depend on how things develop here. I think only a portion of that would work well, I think, as a truly virtual. I think part of the benefit of that is actually being able to see, touch, and interact. So your staff's recommendation to you would be that we push it off later into the year, when it would be safe to have an in-person experience.
But let's decide this at another time.
Yeah,
we can do that. I just want to, I'm pushing for engagement, if not tonight, tomorrow, as somebody said.
Councilmember Carling, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. I again want to thank everybody for participating. For me personally, I do factor in not only the application, but the conversation, or what we heard from, well, really wasn't a conversation, it was answering the question that we provided to them, but I was also very excited by the enthusiasm shown by many of the applicants. And I agree with Vice Mayor that I thought that that Ms. Bonanno did the best, and that's why I and the rest of my colleagues picked her as the number one. But I agree that picking a second and third was tough. But I think I heavily focused on the enthusiasm they brought this evening, as well as would they bring some additional diversity to the council. So that was also playing a part in my thinking, in addition to the topic that I already discussed earlier in terms of what they might do, what their priorities might be in the next couple of years. But in some respects, it's how they presented themselves and the enthusiasm, and how much this might mean to them in terms of participating in the city. So thanks again to everybody, and I'm looking forward to, can I move that we appoint Gina Bonanno?
A second.
Ooh.
Well done, Brittany.
Okay, moved and seconded that we appoint Gina Bonanno. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm excited to learn from Gina. Can't wait to have her sitting somewhere over here.
Okay, yeah, right, in the virtual space.
Yeah.
So floating somewhere here. So the with that, can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kick,
Aye.
Councilmember Carling,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe,
Aye.
Mayor Warner.
Aye. So I think that concludes our meeting this evening for what we wanted to accomplish. I would like to congratulate Gina on being selected. Looking forward to working with you. You'll be sworn in tomorrow, and then we go from there. So so with that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting to tomorrow night, where we have the meeting that was scheduled for tonight, now tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And that will be a regular, I guess it's still another special city council meeting, but it'll be one more normal.
A regular agenda.
And I will point out that in 2 short years, we have gone from a council that was five guys, 3 of them named Bob, to a council that is now not.
There's only 2 Bobs now. That's a big difference.
Well, some of you guys are going to have to change your name, I guess.
Trish is right, and I think it's a great step forward for all of us.
Yeah.
For the city.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think I've adjourned it, and we're done.
Congrats.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Congrats.
Good work.